the offseason. Jared Stansbury joins us again, Cyclone fanatic, Iowa football, men's basketball. And Jared, thanks for your time.
Iowa State.
What did I say?
Iowa. God.
He probably hung up on us after I said that.
Oh, we're good. We're good.
Jared,
we're good for now.
My God, what a way to introduce myself to you. First of all, thanks for what you do. Appreciate your time. How much shockwaves on the Tyrese Hunter story from today?
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously a ground-shaking piece of news. I think probably for Iowa State people today, it wasn't overly shocking. We started to hear a lot about this on Friday. The rumors that there was something afoot and something amiss. Just kind of had to wait through the weekend to see all of it shake out. And, obviously everybody else found out today. But huge piece of news for Big 12 basketball, and obviously one that Iowa State's going to have to do a lot to work their way through now.
How much does this set them back for next season?
I think it's significant. I think it's probably more of it hurts them more for the future, just with the kind of upside that Tyrese had. And I don't think that anybody here thinks that he's a guy who was going to be probably even go pro next year. I think there was maybe in a best case scenario, I think that was certainly possible. But, I think that this is Tyrese was the guy that was the centerpiece of everything for Iowa State moving forward. You brought in Isaiah Braxton this last year, who was kind of your centerpiece, and for this past season that where Tyrese could kind of ease his way into having to be the guy. But I think everybody knew that there was an understanding that once we get through this season, it's all on number 11. And it's all going to be on this kid that's going to be our point guard and kind of lead us into the future. And we're going to build our roster around him. Now, you've added a couple pieces in the transfer portal with Jeremiah Williams, a point guard, transfer point guard from Temple, and then Hassan Ward, a forward from VCU. But, I think you got to reevaluate what's kind of be your approach. Do you try and go and get another point guard? Do you wait? I think that there's probably going to be some more guards who go into the portal here over the next several weeks. Iowa State's done a really good job so far with this whole thing. I think really just the last 2 years, even there was a period under Steve Prohm where it felt like everything with the portal, they were very reactionary. They were never prepared, it felt like, for any scenario, and it's one of those things where every time something would happen, it would be, okay, well, now there's a process of having to react to it. I think that this Iowa State staff was pretty prepared for what was going to come out today, to put a plan together and, kind of try and move forward. It sounds like Manny Bates, a transfer from NC State, is likely to take a visit to Iowa State. He's more of a forward, but, he's one of the higher end transfers in the portal right now. There's a couple other forwards that I think are in that mix too. But the guard court is going to be interesting to see how it shakes out here over the next several weeks, because they have obviously for good reasons have not really even been considering the need to add a high end point guard.
Jared, I saw Chris Williams from your website, Cyclone Fanatic. He was mentioning, I guess a few hours ago about, Iowa State getting together, the collective, the NIL stuff, getting that process going, as a lot of schools clearly already have. How much of this Tyrese Hunter situation is just strictly NIL? Is that all it is, just an NIL situation?
I would say that would be a significant portion of it. I haven't talked to Tyrese, but from what I understand, that's the case. Iowa State has not been as proactive as some schools in getting organized with a lot of these things. And I think that they found out what can happen when you're not proactive in this space, and I think that is going to change. Obviously, like you said, Chris said that the collective is close to being up and running, but, I think that we found out today, anybody who thinks that their school can't get touched by this stuff is lying to themselves. Iowa State had done a lot of things, well, not Iowa State specifically. There were people doing a lot of things to try and get Tyrese in positions to capitalize off his name, image, and likeness going into this summer. But man, there's a lot of money flying around out there right now for good basketball players. So, it's a crazy world. It's a completely different kind of game. And it's one that I think everybody is kind of learning how to navigate well still at this point.
There, Jared, you're right. No question, whether it's in Waco, Ames, or Lubbock or elsewhere, some are maybe a little bit further ahead and doing a better job of it right now. Does it kind of scare the hell out of you in a way, the way this is going?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't even know if it's the money that scares me. The money has always been there. I think you're naive if you think that there haven't been people getting paid. Like that's just. I think the thing that is concerning to me is now people can openly do this, but there's like no checks and balances to anything whatsoever. The NCAA has been completely gutted, probably for good reason. They have no enforcement power whatsoever at this point, basically. So even if somebody cheats, it's not like they're going to get in trouble for it. And then at the same time, I had some people today comparing, well, now the Blue Bloods will be the large market school or the large market franchises like in professional baseball or professional basketball, whatever it may be. Schools like Iowa State will be the small markets like the Oakland A's or the, whoever. The only difference, the Oakland A's have a collective bargaining agreement that protects them from things like this. You can't, the New York Yankees can't just call up the best player on the Oakland A's and say, hey, man, we'll give you whatever to come and play for us. None of those protections exist in college athletics right now. So that's where I think we're so early in a lot of this stuff. I think a lot of the blame for some of the problems that we're facing right now can be put back on the shoulders of the NCAA for being so resistant to so many of these things for so long that we were put into a position where it had to go from 0 to 100. There was no ramp up. There's nothing where we kind of work our way into this stuff. It's just all of a sudden, okay, you can go and do whatever you want to do, this thing that was outlawed for so long. And it's a slippery slope, man. But things got out of control fast, and I think that we're still in the process of figuring out what that's going to exactly look like. But I mean, I think that the more and more I've thought about this over the last several days, it just becomes more glaringly clear that college athletics are not going to look like what any of us are used to them looking like, I think, in the not so distant future. And I think that that's unfortunate. I think it's right that kids should be able to benefit off their name, image, and likeness. I'm 100% for that. Like you'll never hear me argue against anything like that. I fully support kids' right to transfer and go and do what they want to do. I transferred when I was a student in college, so I get it. But it's just there are some things right now that I think are going to hurt the long-term health of college athletics as a whole. And we have to do something, I think, to figure out a way to clean them up. And I'm not smart enough to know the answers to those things, but it just is. It's disappointing as a college sports fan. Obviously I write about college sports, but I do that because I love college athletics. I've grown up loving college athletics, gotten to where I am because of that. And to see some of these things happening right now, it stinks. And I was watching basketball yesterday, the NBA playoffs, and I was just thinking to myself, like, man, it's crazy to think how much money is being thrown at college basketball players when I think anybody who knows anything about basketball can sit and watch the NBA and watch college basketball. And it's like, man, like college basketball's basketball product isn't even that good. It's all the other things that make college basketball so great. And if you want to watch people play basketball for money, like why don't you watch the NBA, which is the best basketball that money can buy? And, that just is, I don't know. I kind of went on a rant right there, but it's kind of where my mind has been over the last several days. There's a lot of layers to everything, and it's just been one of those stories that makes you think about a lot of different areas.
Yeah, no, it's all good, man. I mean, I think we're all in the same boat. I think most people are. I think if you poll most college sports fans, that all would say like, yeah, go ahead, NIL it up, do all that, but like at least give us some set of rules, like prevent my best basketball player from just getting picked away because of just simply money. I mean, like that pro example was a great example of the sports team can't just, we need a quarterback, let's go grab the Cowboys quarterback without any repercussions. But there was another part, you wrote an article about this, and I haven't had a chance to read it, Jared, but there was a line that you mentioned that I hadn't really thought too much about, the growing list of expenses for college sports fans. between just, what they're asked to pay for tickets and concessions and all this stuff, and now you're asking for NIL money and any other number of things. I just wanted to say, I think that was a great point. I hadn't really thought about it, but college sports fans are being asked to hand over basically every cent they earn to try and help their programs at this point.
Yeah, and it's crazy, man, because you look at, okay, I want to be it doesn't matter what school, I want to be a season ticket holder to my college's football or basketball. Okay, well, you can buy season tickets. Well, on top of that, you got to give X number of dollars as a donation for however many number of seats that you have. And then you've got to accrue your points based on your donation. So then, you want to get basketball tickets too. You got to be able to give more money so that then you can get your basketball tickets too. But on top of your donation, then you still have to pay the seat price for your basketball tickets. Okay, then I want to get parking at the football stadium in the basketball arena. Well, then, okay, now I got to increase my donation level even further to get my parking, or I want to do, I just want to watch the games from home. Okay, well, now you got to get ESPN Plus and pay however much that is per year to get ESPN Plus. Oh, and you actually want your team to be good? Okay, well, now you have to give this to a collective or whatever it may be. Like that, at what point does it stop?
Right.
How much money are these schools making off of their television and all these kinds of things? And who is really getting better for? I mean, I don't think the fan, is there anybody out there that would sit there and say that the fan experience is definitively better than it has ever been? I would argue that it's worse in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's what I don't understand here. At what point do the people who are putting all of this money into these things, at what point can they sit there and feel like they reap some sort of a benefit from that? And obviously they're not the ones playing in the games. They're not the ones that are pulling the strings on these things. But it just is, it's crazy to me right now how many people are out there making a whole bunch of money, millions and millions and millions of dollars, that just keep making money while then we continue to ask for more from the fans. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Well,
that just is, it's weird.
Jared, Craig and I were talking about this earlier in that, look, if I'm paying $4 million for a guy, I want to know that he can bring me a championship, right? I mean, but if everybody else is paying $4 million, then there's no guarantee on that. At least when I watch the NBA, if I'm a Spurs fan or a Mavericks fan or the Lakers or whatever, I can pretty successfully watch my NBA team and not have to invest too much financially for them to win a championship. What you're saying is, there's too much skin in the game for college fans not to get championships.
Well, yeah, exactly. And what happens when, insert mega donor X here pays whatever? I think there's that story about I think it's Tennessee or something. There's a kid that's getting like $8 million to go and play football. What happens if that kid gets there and he's not that good? He doesn't play. How do you think that donor just ponied up the $8 million is going to feel? It's like, at what point do we sit there? Here's my other deal. These are 18-year-old kids making this kind of money. And it's like, I don't know about you guys. When you were 18 years old, I don't know that I was the most reliable individual in a lot of different ways, and I'm all for wanting to pay people. Like I said before, I'm all for wanting to pay people what they're worth. But man, that's just such a bad investment. I don't get it. And just like you said, when, you're going to throw this money out there and all these things, it guarantees you nothing. You're not guaranteed a darn thing. And, and I think we've seen there's been a lot of schools out there that have been throwing a lot of money at this kind of stuff for a long time and have not really reaped the benefits, I would say. I'd say there's one in your state that is a very good example of that.
Who?
North Texas.
Money doesn't always answer the questions, and it doesn't always solve the problems, no matter how much you want to throw at it. And that's just there's so much stuff about this, man, that is just so weird. And I think that there's a lot of Iowa State fans right now that are, coming to terms with the fact that college basketball is a mercenaries game, man. Like every year, every team basically is going to turn over. Why would a big school, one of the quote unquote blue bloods, why would they even recruit high school kids anymore? Unless you can get Zion Williamson or Anthony Davis or whoever. There's nothing guaranteed about a kid that's coming from high school. There's nothing guaranteed about a transfer either. But if I've seen a transfer perform at a high level in a high major conference, I probably feel more confident than an 18-year-old going from high school to college. So, what happens to the trickle down then? Where do those kids go? what kind of opportunities are they getting? And it's just weird, man. It's just it's a weird time. And, I think we're still working through our way through a lot of this stuff, but I really hope that there comes a point when we can, I don't know if we need to completely remake the whole system or what the deal is, but this is just spiraling, I think, and it's just going to continue to get crazier and crazier if nobody reins some of this stuff in.
Jared, I'm speaking for myself, but I think I'm speaking even for those who are on our YouTube channel, even Craig, Paul. Thank you for your passion and transparency and your honesty and how you feel, because you can feel it, man. You really, really can. I do have one question to ask you. Have you ever met Cyclone Larry?
No, I have not met Cyclone Larry.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I'll add a caveat to that. If I have, I don't know about it.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
If you do, just hug him for making Twitter a better place.
You just asked him, have you ever met Batman? Well, I don't know. I've never been, in the street and seen Batman, but if Bruce Wayne was around.
Cyclone Larry is the best. And you're, again, I appreciate your segment, Craig.
Yeah, no, I think we got some good stuff here. And Jared, I just wanted to ask you before we let you go, just what's the feeling right now around Cyclones football with Matt Campbell surviving, one of the craziest coaching cycles ever, still sitting there in Ames. Obviously, a lot of turnover with Breece Hall and Purdy and company all gone. But what's kind of the general feeling surrounding spring ball?
Quiet confidence, I think, would be a good way to put it. I think that the guys in the building up there in Ames right now feel a lot better about where they're at than most people would think. And we were talking to Coach Campbell on Friday. They had their last spring practice at a high school up around Ames, kind of did a little tour around a few different towns in the Ames area. And I just asked him, like, how do you feel about your team right now? And he said more or less that he thinks that, there are going to be a lot of people that are surprised by how much talent they have on that roster. And they have recruited a lot better than what Iowa State has ever done in football. And, I think they feel like they usually do their best work when no one believes in them and no one knows anything about what's coming. Obviously, that has not been the case, or for sure last year, but I think even the year before that, maybe to an extent as well. But I think they feel like everybody's kind of written them off and thinks that, that last group left. And now it's time for Iowa State to go back to being what Iowa State's always been. But, they feel like they've got a pretty talented team. And there's obviously some key guys coming back, Xavier Hutchinson and Will McDonald, Anthony Johnson, some guys like that. I think they feel like they've got a pretty good core to surprise a few people. I don't know what that means. Obviously, I haven't seen them play much more than a few Friday nights at some high schools around the Ames area. But usually those guys, when they feel pretty confident about something, they've been right more often than not. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see in the fall. It should be interesting, though. It should be a fun season because I enjoy the years when we don't really know much about the team. It makes my job more fun.
Jared, thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time, and good luck following this trail with whatever happens and what Iowa State can do to bounce back from losing Hunter. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime, folks.
Yeah, Jared Stansbury, CycloneFanatic.com. He's good. Really good stuff.
Yeah.
Not just a passion as a fan, but someone who knows it. He was very good about, kind of knowing the pieces and how they fell. But there's no question what he was talking about with what this decision, how it started based on, hey.
Well, I mean, when you say as a body that the whole entire purpose of this thing is to be able to give athletes what they deserve, but you also make it very clear in the very beginning that this is not supposed to be incentive-based, and then you have players going off the board, leaving their schools after 1 year simply for a $4 million NIL offer. Well, that's entirely based on exactly what this wasn't supposed to be based on, and everybody knows it, and everybody sees it, and everybody can use other examples. It's not Tyrese Hunter alone by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, there's been countless number of recruits or transfer players that are very clearly just going after NIL deals, and it's not an issue with coaches or their team or whatever. I mean, Tyrese Hunter was damn good on a damn good team. Like,
on one of the most surprising, best stories
the biggest
of college
turnaround
basketball.
in college basketball.
Sweet 16
exactly.
team.
He's on a Sweet 16 team with a coach that's basically just getting started, with a passionate fan base who will do whatever they can to support him, but they just can't pony up $4 million reportedly to just
even if it
have
was
him
$2
come
million.
back.
Yeah. No.
And I think that's a shame. That's great for Tyrese Hunter and his people and all of that, but I think it really sucks for, again, the non-money things. And I know it's hard for some people to separate money from anything, but I mean, just try and see what real life's about, because yes, money is important, and especially in this country, it's all that anything is based upon. But man, there's something to be said for relationships. There's something to be said for, networking and building things, at a place. And with no indication that this is anything but NIL, that just sucks, man. And, I know others will be like, woo, 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 hey, $4 million. They just want to see the chaos. I've talked about that before, and that's fine. I understand why it's entertained to an extent, but I think it kind of sucks, man. Like, what did Iowa State do wrong? Nothing. They recruited him, brought him in, treated him like a damn king, and, won a bunch of games, and he was a part of that. But, there was no reason for him to leave other than some other school just calling him up, or calling an agent type of guy, or AAU coach or whatever, and saying, hey, we'll pay him $4 million to come here, or whatever the number is. That sucks, man. And I don't see how that's really enjoyable for folks.
Well, and look, the laws that were passed and written that forced NIL into existence by the states had guardrails in them, but they had guardrails in them with the expectation that the NCAA would take them, which was foolish. Congress, the states and governments trusting the NCAA and vice versa to do anything right is ridiculous. But they had those guardrails in them because people are like, well, we don't want it to be completely the wild, wild west, but they expected the NCAA to come in and say, okay, here's the rules that the state says, here's the rules of the NCAA, and that to be the happy medium. But the NCAA just threw up their hands and said, well, there's state rules, that's fine, and they let it become the wild, wild west. And maybe it's because they can't. Maybe the NCAA can't figure out how to enforce things.
Yeah,
maybe they said after all this time, we can't figure out how to enforce it, so we're not going to.
I think that's the biggest thing.
We've dumped so much money down the legal wormholes that don't go anywhere that we're just not going to. And when asked about it, we'll just say, well, we're working on it.
You know what happens to a house if you think you have termites or you see possible signs of termites? What happens if you don't get to it?
Well, your house is
screwed, right? You're going to spend thousands upon thousands of dollars. The house might never be the same if you didn't take care of that the first time. Have you ever had termites in your new house?
No. I mean, not yet.
House one time, I remember a guy said, hey, you got a little line going up the wall. Scrubbed it out, got in there, didn't see any damage. Thank God. Sprayed some things. It got to it really. I didn't see it. It was near the trash, near the big plastic dumpsters or trash cans that you put on the side of the curb. If you don't see it, don't fix it, then that's what happens, and that's what the NCAA is.
We got to go here, and I do have a big note for Bearcats fans here in a second, but there wasn't any surprise. The termites were sitting on the front porch saying hello as you drove up. The termites were there. They had lounge chairs and cold beers.
And a mariachi
and they were just sitting there laughing at the entire thing. So, the only thing I don't like about talking about NIL is that any criticism you might have of it, or any sort of, I don't know about that, it can be taken as just like, oh, well, you don't agree with it. And it's like, no, it's not that. I just, I'm like everybody else. Hey, bring it on. But let's have some uniformity and some formal rules, and not allow a Tyrese Hunter to just be bought from another team, because that's exactly what happened today.
The way I look at it, it's kind of like if I was just at a family beach and I voted I said that, listen, the city, there's a lot of people who want a nude beach. And they're like, okay, all the beaches are nude. Whoa.
Yeah, it's not what we said.
That's not what I
exactly.
said. I wanted them to have a beach so they could feel like
they can't even figure out their own freaking playoffs.
Yeah.
I know that they don't run that, but
right. Yeah, I mean,